What's up, Clarity Coders and guests? I had this fun little series idea when I was working with my daughter and teaching her programming. I actually found that I was super relaxed after I had programmed with her in kind of a relaxing environment. We were utilizing Scratch, so I wanted to do kind of a fun series where every week I'm going through a common game and I'm recreating it with you guys inside of Scratch and just coding along. I'm hoping that this can do two things. It can, one, teach you how to teach others how to program, and also just allow you to relax and be creative. I also want feedback. Share in the comments and email me at jake@claritycoders.com. So we're going to start somewhere simple with a game that everybody knows. Let's create Flappy Birds inside of Scratch. So if you haven't already, go to scratch.mit.edu and hit the Create button. And you can start creating your project right away. Now, if you want to save your projects, make sure to sign up for an account first and then hit that Create button. Now, if you've never used Scratch, you have like a little game window over here. You have like an asset manager where you can collect your sprites and code along. You have different tabs on your sprite itself. So you have the code, the costumes, and then the sounds. And we're going to kind of figure this out as we go. Now, I'm not an expert at Scratch either, so you'll probably comment on some things that I can do better as well. So for my project, I'm going to go ahead and delete this sprite, and I'm going to hit this choose sprite in the bottom right-hand corner, and I'm going to utilize the bat sprite for us. And instead of Flappy Bird, we're going to do a bat flying through a cave. Now, I like this bat because he has some animations we can use already that'll make our game look a little more polished. So now that I've selected that bat, you can see that I'm on this bat here. I can go to his costumes and I can also add code. The first thing that I want to do for our game is pull the bat down, right? In Flappy Bird, there's a sense of gravity while you're playing. So to start out, we can go to the yellow events tab and you'll see that there's a green flag. There's a yellow when green flag clicked button. Let's grab that and pull it out. And then right away, I want to go ahead and set a variable. So I'm going to go to my orange variables and I'm going to make a new variable and I'm just going to call mine gravity. When this game starts, I just want to set my gravity right away to a value. And for right now, we can just have it be 0. And then over time, we want gravity to pull harder and harder on our bat if he doesn't try and flap his wings. So he's going to fall faster and faster if he stops flapping his wings. So in order to do that, for right now, we can go to our orange control blocks and we can say forever. This is going to do a loop forever that will manipulate our bat. And inside of this forever, I want our gravity to keep getting stronger and stronger. Now, gravity's not going to get stronger, but the bat's terminal velocity is going to fall faster, right? Once he stops flapping his wings. So we're going to change our gravity every time we go through this loop by -1. And then all we have to do is go to our motion tab. And here we have a change Y by 10. We're not going to use 10, but we can drag and drop that in. And then go back to our variables. And instead of changing it by 10, I'm going to grab our gravity variable and drop that in. Now, when you made your variable, I kind of skipped over this, but it's very important that you make it for all sprites if that is your intention, which gravity is going to affect different things in our game, possibly. So I'm going to go ahead and set it for all sprites, which I did. Now, if we do this, our loop, it should be pretty straightforward. And you can see why this is so easy to teach with, and in not necessarily even kids, but anywhere when you're trying to teach. You can walk through this very easily. So when the flag is clicked, we're going to set gravity to 0. And then forever, we're going to change gravity by -1. And then we're going to change Y, the Y value of our bat, by the gravity. So you can see right now, if we click on our bat, he is at a Y of 86. If I pull him down, obviously it's going to be less, 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 and then I'll eventually get into negative numbers. Now this screen is 180 to -180, I believe, and -240 to 240 on the x-axis. So right now I'm going to also change the size of our bat to just be 40. I think that will make him look a little better for right now for our testing. So let's go ahead and hit the green arrow. And you'll notice he fell. That's good, right? So it does work. He is falling as we intended. We need the ability to get him up off of the ground. So right now, he's always going to be at, well, right now, we are not setting the bat back to the correct position when we click the flag. So if we click this, you'll notice he's still at the bottom. Let's go ahead and set a standard spot for our bat to start when we start the game. So if we go to the motion tab, there's a go to XY coordinate here. And if we grab our bat, we can just say we want him to start kind of here-ish. We can say that's -170 and a Y of 20. So let's just try that. Let's say -170 and a Y of 20. And now every time I hit that flag, he's going to start there and then fall, of course. I'm going to do another event. So I'm going to say another event of when the flag is clicked. And this is going to be our flying. So our flapping of our wings. So I'm going to go to my orange control tab and I'm going to say forever. And then inside of here, we can easily detect if a button is pushed. And if a button is pushed, we want to propel our bat up, right? But not too far. We want it to have a good jump and then gradually decrease, right? So let's grab inside of our control an if block. And here we can really easily detect if a key is pressed. So let's go to the teal sensing. And we can grab this key pressed. Now, I always go in the bottom right-hand corner and make sure it highlights and then drop it in. You can choose a different key if you want. The space is fine with me, so that's what I'm going to use. So if the space is pressed, let's go to our variable chat tab and let's set our gravity to a value. So let's set our gravity to something like 15, say. So now if you have your finger on the space bar and I push this green flag, I can hit the space bar and you'll notice my bat will bounce. It'll kind of fly up in the air. Now, he's not flapping his wings yet, so it doesn't look very realistic. And I can also just hold down the space bar and he'll just fly all the way up. Let's fix the holding of the button first. So inside of our events tab, maybe I wanted control. Inside of our control tab, there is a wait until. So I'm going to drag that down below inside of our if statement. Now here, I can basically pause until I release this key. So I'm going to go back to my sensing tab. And I want the opposite of it being pressed. So I want to say when the key is not pressed. So inside of here, we can see that there's a key is pressed, but there's no key is not pressed. Well, lucky for us, we have a nice operators tab here where we can grab this not block. I'm going to drop that in and then drop our key space is pressed inside of that. And now this is going to block our program until we let go of that space bar. So essentially, if I hold it, he's still going to fall until I release and press again. Now you're going to have to find the value of gravity that you like here. I chose 15. It's totally up to you. We can try 10. Or 5. 5's not enough. Let's try 10. That's not bad. I'm going to stick with 15 though. And we can change this down the road. Now I also want it to look like I flapped my wings. So if we go back to our costumes, we can see that the bee costume is us flapping our wings. Now the C makes it look like we got hit by something. I don't think we want that yet, but we can flip between these two costumes to make it look like we're flying. But I only want it to happen when I flap my wings. So when the key is pressed, the space bar is pressed, that's when I want to flap. So if I go to looks, I can add a switch to costume right then, and I can switch it to the B costume. So now if I run this, you'll notice I got a weird issue. Now he's just stuck on costume B, which makes sense because we're not telling it to switch back at all. So inside of this, I can grab another switch to costume, and at the end of this, after we wait, I can switch back to costume A. Now, you might also notice when we first start our game, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and set our costume to what we want it to look like originally. So we can go ahead and switch our costume to costume A when we start our game in general. So now you'll notice it looks pretty nice. He's going to flap and he's going to kind of fall, and it all looks pretty realistic. Except he's going straight up and down. I kind of want him to look like he's flying through a cave. So I want him to be tilted a little this way. And then I also kind of want him to rotate as he's falling. So it looks like he's starting to tip towards the ground. So out of the gate, we can go to our motion tab. And inside of here, there's a point in direction block. So when we start the game, we can point in a direction. And you can kind of see how this would look. I'm going to have him tipped sort of down. Let's start him at like 120 and see how that looks. Yeah. So now you can see that he's kind of tilted at that 120. That looks pretty good for flying through the cave. And then forever, I want him to keep kind of tipping farther that direction until he resets. And when he flaps his wings, he's going to reset. So right here, if we change this to just turn right 1 degree and run this, you'll notice that he just keeps turning 1 degree. He never resets, and it looks pretty kooky. But every time I flap, I can also point him back in the correct direction. So over here, when I flap, I'm going to go ahead and point him back to that 120. So now you'll see that we kind of reset that every time. And I don't know if we can do decimals here either. So if I did like 0.5, I don't know if that works. I think so. So now he's turning a little bit slower. So you can do whatever feels right to you there. I'm going to go ahead and stick with 1 for right now. I think that looks okay. All right, now I think I want a play button in my game. So I'm going to go ahead and add that now. So I'll go to the paint tool here. And I'm going to just choose the square. And I'll maybe do red. Something like this with a black outline. Center it in the middle here. Then I'll just add some text. Turn this color back, and then add some text. Just say play. Always use the same font. There we go. Looks pretty good. And then I'm also going to add a backdrop. So I'm going to go to the button beside the characters here and the paintbrush, and this will be our backdrop. So the first backdrop, I'm just going to have be our game window. It can just be pure black like that for right now. And then the second one, I'll have an option for us to flip to like a game over screen. I'm going to change the color back to like a red. Then I'll just write game over. Something like that. Now notice if you flip back and forth, you're not seeing your code again. You got to go up here into the top left and switch to your code. So I'm back on the bat sprite. I'm going to go to my play button. Actually, I'm going to go back to my backgrounds. Go to backdrops here. I don't really like that it's pure black. I'm going to use this dropper, grab that black. I'm going to add just a bit of brightness here. Turn down the saturation. Okay, I kind of like that. I'm going to do the same thing on this game over screen. All right, enough of that. Now back on my play button here. For the size, I can make it like 40. For the X and Y, I'm going to put it 0, 0 for right now, just in the center. And then on this play button, this is going to be kind of what drives our whole game. So I'm going to go back to the code window. And I'm going to go to events. And I'm going to say when the flag is clicked, we'll go to our looks. I want to show this button. And I also want to switch the backdrop. So I want to make sure that the backdrop is on backdrop 1, which is our game backdrop. Now, when I click it, I want our game to start. So if I go to events, I can say when this sprite is clicked, I can go to looks. I want to hide the button. Then under events, we can broadcast a new message. There's a broadcast button, and this is going to shout out to the rest of our program some type of message. I'm going to say a new message of start. And that's going to kick off our game to everything else. Now, I also want some sort of a life for my bat. Now, in Flappy Bird, you typically just get one hit and then you lose. I don't know if we want that or we want to take damage or what we want to do later in our game. So for right now, I'm just going to make a new variable for all sprites, and I'm going to call it health. And this just can be the health of our bat. So when this flag is clicked on our button, we can go ahead and set our health to whatever value we want. I'm going to make it 100 just in case we want to take damage down the road. And if we want to just end the game, I can just take away all 100 health. Cool. So that's looking pretty good. Let's go back to our bat. And now we don't want this to happen when the flag is clicked anymore on either of these. So when the flag is clicked, we actually want our bat to be hidden. He's not going to show up on the title screen. We can get rid of this. But we do want some events. We want to say when I receive start on both of these, then we're going to start our game loops. So if we hit the flag here, all we have is a play button. Once we hit that, you'll notice we have a problem. Our gravity was at negative 300 million thousand or whatever it is right there. So we do want to make sure that our gravity is set to 0. So back on our game sprite here, we can set our gravity to 0 right away on this as well. So we can set our gravity to 0. Try this again, hit play. Oh, and I see what's happening. We have a little bug here. I'm hiding the bat and I'm not showing it again. So over in looks, we can grab our show block. And then I can say when I receive start, we can go ahead and show our bat again. So now we got our bat showing up. And he still flaps, so that's good. Now, right now, the only thing we really could check for is if he falls clear to the bottom, we probably want our health to go down to 0. But we can wait for that until we get our walls and then see if we can get him flying through the walls. But for right now, this looks pretty good. Now, what I don't like, though, is when I click play, then I want to click with my mouse to make him fly and not the space bar. So right here, I'm going to add something so we can use either the mouse or the space bar. I'm going to pull out the key press space, and I'm going to sense for mouse down. Now I want both of these inside of this if. I want to test for either one of these. So if we go to operators, that's going to be a good fit for our or operator. So I'm going to say if the mouse is down or the key is pressed. And down here, I want to wait till both of those are raised up. Because if I do this now I can just hold down my mouse and he flies away. So this one we need to use an and. We want to make sure that the key and from our sensing tab, mouse down, is not being pressed. We can add that back in here. And now I should be able to use my mouse or my spacebar. And both should work just fine. I still feel my gravity is a little crazy. I'm going to turn it down to 12. Okay, I like that. Now it's time to make our walls. Now for this, we can actually make these ourselves. So let's go to choose a sprite, and then we'll use the paint key. And we can grab our brush, and I'm just going to take full black here, and I'm going to draw some sort of a wall here. I'm going to make it kind of go down here as well. That looks pretty good. Then you can find a color that works for you. I'm going to try this gray maybe. Okay, I like that. Then I'm going to highlight the whole thing. I'm going to switch to my mouse pointer, highlight all of it. I'm going to copy and paste it. And you could actually flip it the other way. I kind of like it just like this. It gives it a different shape on both sides. And it gives me something I can fly through there. We just kind of got to decide how large we want that gap to be. Kind of stretch it maybe. I don't know, something like that. We can see how that works. But this gives us at least a... Oops. Remember to highlight both if you go to stretch it, the outline and the piece itself. At any rate, this can be our wall. So I'm going to actually name this one. I didn't name the other two, but we'll name it wall. And then we can go back to our code. And this one's going to be pretty easy to generate. We're going to use clones. So if we go to our events, we can do the same when I receive start. And then I want to set up a variable for our wall speed. So I'm going to go to variables, make variable, and call this wall speed. And when I receive start, I can go ahead and set my wall speed to a number. For example, I can say -4. I'm going to go and hide my wall. And then under control, I can do another forever loop. And I can say under control still, I can create a clone of myself. And then I always add a wait whenever I'm working with clones because it usually happens way too fast. So I'm going to wait 1 second after I create a clone. Then when I start as a clone, we need to go to a certain spot. So under the motion tab, I want to go to X and Y. And remember, clear on the left side was 240. We might be able to even push it farther because our thing is also 240, so we can probably push it like 500 over there, but we'll get there. So if I click that, you'll see that that puts it starting like right about here. I don't love that. And then a Y of say 100. Let's try a Y of 0. Yeah, that looks okay for right now. And then let's change this to say 400. That looks pretty good. I don't know if I can push it over any farther. Let's try 450. 500. This is real scientific. There we go. So let's start at X equals 500, Y equals 0, and then we'll just slowly move it across the screen. So after I get it there, I can go to my looks tab and I can go ahead and show it because remember it's going to be hidden when it first starts. And then in my control tab, we're going to use something else this time. We're going to do repeat until because we want it to repeat and move across the screen, but then when it gets off the screen, we want to go ahead and delete itself. So under events, nope, under control, I believe, we can use delete this clone afterwards. But we need to test when it gets far enough to the left side of our screen. So under our operators, we have a cool less than comparison here. And I can just say when it's less than negative 500, we'll just go the opposite direction. Then under motion, we can scroll down and get our X position. We're going to repeat this loop until our X position is less than 500. And while it's greater than 500, we want to use our motion to move our wall to the left to look like we're flying through the cave. So we can just change X by whatever our variable wall speed is. Cool. So this should get us pretty close. Go ahead and hit, well, you'll notice it still shows up here. So under events, we can grab this when the green flag is clicked. We want to looks, make sure we hide our wall. Now our wall disappeared. I can click play. You'll see here's our walls. Now it looks pretty funky, but that's okay. Now because of the outline, it looks a little goofy. If we go back to, if we're clicked in our walls still, go to costumes. I'm just going to select the outline and then delete it. And I think that will actually help a little bit. Because now you can't see the borders. So yeah, that does help. Now it looks very similar. And we've learned now that we can actually wait probably longer than 1 second. It might be different for you too. So kind of find the vibe that feels right there. I'm going to wait 2 seconds before starting a new one. That works pretty good. Might even change this to 3. And now we got a couple issues. So when we touch the wall, nothing happens. It doesn't hurt us and the game doesn't end. So that's not great. So back on our bat, in this loop, we're turning and we're moving and we're doing gravity and all kinds of things. We want to see if we're touching the wall as well. I'm going to do a control here, and I'm going to say if. And then on our sensing tab, we can grab and see if we're touching. I'm going to see if we're touching the wall. And if we are touching the wall, we could hurt our character or decrease his health. Or in our case, we could just set the health to 0. If it's, you know, one hit and you're donezo. So I'm going to set my health to 0. And now instead of being in a forever loop here, I kind of wanted this to just run until my health equals 0. So I'm actually going to say, under control, repeat until operators will say equals. So this can be 0. So we want to repeat until our health equals 0. Now I'm going to copy this and paste it because I'm going to use it over here as well. I'm going to plop all my code in here. Now I'm going to repeat this until my health equals 0. And then I can go to looks. And I can just hide my bat again once I'm done. Same thing over here. I'm going to pull all this code out and put it inside my repeat until. I'm going to get rid of my forever. And now we should have health in our game. If we go back to the wall, you'll remember we had another forever here. Let's grab that. I still had this copied. If you don't have it copied, you can recreate it as well. But I'm going to do repeat until health equals 0. Create a clone of myself. And now, if we play, if we hit the wall, it should end our game. And you'll see my health went to 0. These walls continue, but no new ones get created. So we can fix that if we would like. We could add another like check here to delete it. So I can just say if, and then I can grab this, copy and paste it. So I can say if my health equals 0, we want to go ahead and delete this clone. So now as soon as we hit the wall, it should disappear as well. Great. Now we should have like a try again button or something like that, but we'll get to that here in just a moment. If we go to the bat, you'll see this is where we can handle that game over, right? Because the bat is done. He's kind of the first one to notice he touched the wall and set the health equal to 0. That could be where we broadcast out a game over message. So we can come back to that. But on the wall, we're missing one element to our game, and that's the score. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the wall speed. I just slide my health up here for right now, so it's a little out of the way. And then let's add one more variable. Let's make a new variable, and we'll call it score. Now, there are a lot of different ways you could do this, right? But I'm kind of looking at it when we get past a wall, we could increase the score by 1. So I'm thinking after one clone gets the X position of less than 500, and before it deletes itself, let's just increase our score. So I'm going to go ahead and change right here my score by 1. And then I'm just going to make sure on the play side of things that when I start my game, I set that score to 0. So now when we play our game, if we can get past one of the walls, which I'm not sure I can't, well, yep, I didn't there. Let's try it again. I may have made it too hard. Back on my bat. Let's give me a little more leeway here. Let's do 10. And then on our walls, I'm going to go to costume, and I'm going to give myself just a little bit bigger gap. It's not cheating if you created the game. I'm going to play again. and you'll see our score starts to go up, which means our score variable is working. And as soon as we touch a wall, everything disappears. So it seems to be working great. Now, we don't have multiple sections of walls, so it's just the same wall repeating over and over. We're going to fix that. And our game doesn't have any cool elements like things that power us up or power us down or that we should avoid or anything like that. So those are the two things that I also want to accomplish in this game. For right now, I'm going to change this score to a large readout, and I'm going to hide our health because we don't really use it. It's just either 100 and 0 in this game, for at least right now. And our gravity as well I can hide, I think. We don't really need that at this point. All right, so I don't always want the rock formations to be the same every time, so I'm going to teach you how you can do this. So I'm just going to duplicate this costume. And then I can do a couple different things here. I could delete these and just do something totally different. So if I wanted to, I could. I'm just using this original fill color. If you don't have it, you can use the eyedropper and then select the fill. And I'm using the paintbrush. And I'm just going to paint a whole new shape. So for this one, maybe I want it something like this, a little more jagged. And then I can go ahead and fill that in. Let's go ahead and delete this one too. I'll use the paintbrush. Again, I'll make it a little tighter at the top. Then open up. So this can be our other shape. I'll fill this in. So just a little different shape, a little difference between these two costumes so we can get some different looking walls. So let's go back to our code. And now we need to choose between those two walls. Now when I receive start, I can go to looks and I can switch my costume to costume 1. Now I only have two costumes right now, so I'm just going to flip between these two. You could do it the same if you had multiple costumes as well. So now when I start as a clone, before I show, I want to decide which costume I want to wear. So if I go to control here, I can say if. And I can just do that before everything here. So I'm going to just say if. And because I only have one costume right now, I can just do something like if something equals 1. So I can do pick a random number. So it's going to pick a random number between 1 and 2. If that's 1, I want it to switch my costume to costume 2. And that means if it chooses 2, it's just going to leave it alone. And that'll work if we just have two costumes. I can do switch to costume 2 right here, and that should take care of changing between those two walls. So now if I play, that kind of looks like our flat one. Ooh. I made this game hard. And you can tell as we get into different walls, because our score is going to go up, right? Let's go back to our costumes, at least in my case. This is still pretty hard for me. I'm not very good, so maybe that's the problem. I'm going to open this up just a little bit. Same here. This one's pretty cray-cray. Can't believe I said cray-cray. And we can also make this just a little different each time. Right now, Y always starts at 0, so they kind of start in the same spot. We don't want to get too crazy with this, I don't think, but we can pick a random number for our y. We can do something like -20 and 20. That'll give it just a little change each time and make it just a little more dynamic where those walls start. So sometimes it should go up and sometimes it'll kind of look like it's going down, but it'll always be a little different. Now we need one more button. Right now we have a play button, but we also need a try again button. So I'm going to hit this little choose sprite over here. Nope, that's not what I wanted. I'm going to do the paintbrush. And actually, instead of doing that, I'm going to delete this. I'm going to right click this play sprite and I'm going to duplicate it. And I'm just going to call it again. And now inside of our costumes for again, I'm going to change the font to say again. Center that. Then I can expand. Ooh, we don't want that. Hitting Control Z there. Let's slide this font down. Just highlight my square. Make it a little wider. So hopefully we can fit all of our word inside. Then I'll put again back there. So now if we go to our code, you'll notice it has all the same code that we had before, which is fine. So instead of when the flag is clicked, I want to set all these back to 0 when we click like play again. So remember, this will just be our again, and we want to set all of our scores back to 0 and all that jazz. Then I want to hide the button, and then I want to broadcast to start. Now, when the flag is clicked, we can go to looks, and I actually want this to be hidden at first, right? We don't want it to show up right away. Now we also want to make sure we switch the backdrop back to backdrop 1. Remember, that was our original game without the game over font on it. I'm going to get rid of this show. That all looks pretty good to me. This does say broadcast and wait. I think we could just use a broadcast tag, but that's fine for right now. But our button will never show up. So if you remember, we talked about on our bat code here, once we run out of health, we can broadcast out that our game is over. So I'm going to go to events, and I'm going to grab this broadcast, and I'm going to put it right before I hide my bat. And I'm going to get a new message, and I'm just going to say game over here. Now if I go back to our again, I can say, when I receive game over, I want this button to show up. So under motion, I'm going to make sure it's in the position I want. So I'm going to say 0, 0, and then I can go to looks, and I can hide this button. No, I don't want to hide it. I want to show it. So we could show this button. I'm going to play. See, I'm getting a little squirrely as this video is going on. Scratch is harder than it looks, you know. So now we got our game reset. I can press again, and then our game starts again. It's looking much better now. Tell you what, we are getting stuff figured out here. Look at me. I'm getting better at this game too. So that's all looking pretty good now. Let's go back to our bat. That's functioning. Our play, we got try again. We got the wall. So the one last thing that I wanted to do in this game, just to make it kind of unique, I wanted some kind of objects that we can either collect or that would power up our bat or harm our bat, something like that, just to show you how you could do it in a game. Now, when I was looking around at sprites, I found a cool one. So I'm going to go to choose sprite. And inside of here, I can just search for potion. Now, I like this one because it had a couple different costumes that could have different effects in our game. Now this one was really large, so if you're on costumes, potion C, I'm just gonna highlight everything and see if I can shrink that one up just so it's kind of the same size as the other ones. Cool. Now I like that. So let's go to our code for the potions. So you can guess kind of in the beginning, when the flag is clicked, we don't want any potions to show up. And I also want to set the size. That's maybe a little too big. So if we play around with the size, like 50, that looks okay. Maybe a little small. Let's say 60 for right now. So I'm just going to set out of the gate the size to 60. And now I need a way for our potion to show up. So when do we want a potion to show up in our game? Well, I got to hide this too. Let's go ahead and hide that as well. So I was thinking at a certain point in our game, we'd want the potion to show up. So you could tie it to time or score or anything you wanted. But I was thinking every time we got to 5 points, a new potion would show up. So back on our bat sprite, I think this is where we calculate score. Nope, the wall. So if you go to our wall, you'll notice that we changed score by 1 here at the end. Let's add a control block to test and see if it's time to throw a potion. I'm going to add an if statement at the end. And here we have a pretty powerful operator called mod. So mod is going to give you the remainder of a division problem. So if you have 9 mod 5, if I click on that, I have a remainder of 4. And that's because 5 goes into 9 one time with a remainder of 4. So if I want something to happen every time I score 5 points, I can test to see if this is equal to 0. So 5 mod 5 will have a remainder of 0. And then everything until 10 will have a remainder that's not 0. 8, 9 will have a remainder of 4. And then once we get back to 10, this will return 0 again. So what we can do is we can take our score variable and mod with 5. So right now it's 4 mod 5. So we're going to have a remainder of 4 because 5 doesn't even go into 4 one time. And we can test to see if that's equal to 0. And if it is, we're going to throw our potion. So if score mod 5 equals 0, then we'll throw a potion. So let's go under events. Let's broadcast a new message. Instead of game over, let's call this potion. And now we can go back to our potion. And as you can guess, we're going to go to our events and we can say when I receive potion. At first, all of our potions are going to do the same thing, but we might want to make them do different things. And our logic with the wall costumes doesn't work for this because we have more than 2 types of potions. So I'm going to go ahead and create a variable. And here I can say make a variable, and this can be for this sprite only. And you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it potion choice. I'll hit OK. And now I want to set my potion choice when I receive potion to a random choice between 1 and 3. Now, fun fact, in Scratch, all these costumes are numbered 1, 2, or 3. So when I pick this number, my potion choice is going to either contain 1, 2, or 3. So then I can go to my control blocks and I can say if, I'll go to operators, I'll say equals, if my potion choice equals 1, then I want to change my looks to potion costume, let's say A. Now I can copy this and paste it and paste it. And now I'll say if my choice is 2 and if my choice is 3, and then I can change this to B and change this to C. So now each time I'll get a new potion with a new costume. Then once I have my potion created, I can go ahead and go down to control, and I can create a clone of myself. Now you probably get the gist now of what we're going to do, but we're going to do something very similar. So I'm going to say when I start as a clone, I'm going to go to my motion tab, and I want to grab my X and Y coordinates. I want to start clear on the right side like we did with the others. So I'm going to say a 240X, and my Y again can be a little random here, and you can play around with what looks right, but let's just say we want to start somewhere between -100 and 100. That potion should start in a random spot. And then here under control, we can do a forever loop. And all I'm going to do is under motion, I'm going to change X by whatever is in our wall speed. Now, because the potion's moving at the same speed as our walls, it's going to kind of look like the potion's just hovering there. Now, let's do a control. Let's say if, and let's do this under our X. And then let's go to sensing. Now, we want to check if we're touching our bat. Now, if we are touching our bat, we want to have some effect on the bat and then delete it at the end. Now we also need another control and an if statement. And here we want to use our operators to check and see if the bat's if the potion's made it past our bat clear to the left side of the screen. So we can say if our position is less, so let's do motion and let's get our X position. If it's less than 235, let's go to control and we can go ahead and delete this clone. Now, if we're touching the bat, we need to see which costume we're wearing. So if we can use our operators, and here we can say equals. So if our costume is costume 1, now we could get this with two ways. Our potion choice should still be pointed to 1, but we can also in our looks, if we scroll down, we can get the costume number here. So we're going to know which potion we're on. So if our costume number equals 1, let's just pretend we wanted to speed up the entire game. So we can take our wall speed. Nope. We can change, say, our wall speed. Change our wall speed. Now remember, negative is faster. So we were doing -4 before. And we're changing it. So we could do, let's double it right now, just so we can see if it's having an effect. So that's if our costume equals number 1. Let's grab, I just copied that. I'm going to paste it below. Now be careful where you're pasting this. So if our costume number is number 2, then we can change our gravity by -4, or we could do something like that. I kind of like the idea. So if it's potion 2, we could have a variable that like grows our bat or something, or shrinks him, something like that. Let's create a new variable and we'll call it grow, and make sure it's for all sprites. So now if the costume number is 2, let's grab our set block and let's set grow to 10. So this will make our bat bigger. Let's grab that. I'm going to copy and paste it. Now let's do our next costume of 3, and let's say grow of -10. So that should make our bat smaller if we get that potion. So we don't have to remember this, but the green should make the walls go faster, blue should make us bigger, and purple should make us smaller. But right now, these variables aren't having any effect. The wall speed's going to happen right away because we're updating that wall speed, and the walls are using that wall speed variable already. The grow, nothing is using at the moment. So if we look at our bat, he's doing some movements each time. Here would be a good spot to use an if block on our control to see if we need to change how our bat looks with the grow variable. So we can say if grow equals 0, so we can go to variables, we can grab grow. If grow equals 0, then we don't want to do anything. But ours is the opposite. When grow does not equal 0, we want to manipulate our bat size. So in our operators, we have a not, so we can flip this. So when grow does not equal 0, I want to go to my looks, and here we can change size by a value, and you guessed it, we're going to change our size by grow. Now we also have to make sure we set grow back to 0, or else he will get insanely random size there. So if you want to play around with that, you can see what that would look like, but I think this should work for us now. We're going to have to probably do some debugging, but we can try it here. So let's go ahead and hit play. Now I might have to make this easier, obviously, because I'm pretty incompetent at getting through this game to a score of 5. But if I really focus, see if we get to 5. Oh, and we didn't get a potion. Oh no. Okay. Let's check this out again. So on our walls, if our score mod 5 equals 0, then we're going to broadcast potion. When I receive potion, we're going to do all of our stuff. I'm going to create a clone, and then we did the cardinal sin. I forgot to show my clone. So I like to put shows after I move their position. So with that, we can try this again. If we go to our walls, we can probably make this a little easier on me. We can do mod 3. So now I should only have to get to a score of 3, and you should only have to listen to me for that long. Now, I've really enjoyed programming Scratch. I hope you guys do too. It's kind of relaxing for me in my everyday job. There's our purple. I'm going to try and grab it, and you'll notice it made us smaller. That's pretty cool. And I think it actually made us extra small because it doesn't disappear. So I can touch it multiple times. See? So that's another bug. It's kind of a fun one. But if we go back to our potions, no matter what, if we touch the bat, at the end of this, we want to delete it. So you could put a delete inside of all these costumes. We don't really want to do that. Let's go to control. Let's say delete this clone. And I'm just going to put it at the end of all my if statements, because no matter what, if I touch a bat, I want to delete the clone. Now we can try this again. Holy cow. And our bat started out enormous. That's another error for us, right? So I think originally I had my bat at a size 40 maybe. So we can just say when the flag is clicked. Well, actually, when I receive start, let's go to looks. And let's go ahead and set our size to 40 here. Now, I guess when I'm playing this game, I could have been in the expanded screen. So now we got our bat flying here. We should eventually get to 3, hopefully, if I pay attention. Blue. Yeah, that made us just a little bit bigger, and then I lost my focus and didn't make it. So cool. So now we got a functioning game. We got a game. No, we don't go to a game over screen. We need to do that backdrop. We created it and then never set it up. There was a Neopets game, like Dragon Run or something, that I played all the time when I was a kid, and it was kind of like this. And then I found out about programming, so I was writing scripts to buy rare items all the time, and then eventually I got banned, and that was my end of my Neopets career. At any rate, we are good there. Now, if I go to the try again, when I receive game over, let's go to the looks, and let's go ahead and switch to backdrop 2. That should be the game over. So if I do that, now I get game over. But if I hit again, it'll go right back to that backdrop 1, which is nice. Also, if I hit this flag to start the game on play, you'll notice it goes to backdrop 1 as well. I think we're in a pretty good spot. This game is looking good. I want to see what you guys do. Make sure to email me your creations or comment down below, however you want to get in touch with me. You can do more on this, obviously. If you want to make these look realistic, you could kind of tilt them as they're going as well. I'm going to break it as I'm talking to you guys. So I might like this, like looking like it's sitting there spinning or something as you get to those potions. But either way, make this thing your own. I hope you guys had fun. I'll be releasing more videos like this soon so we can hang out and keep programming these and advancing in our programming journey. Until next time, keep coding.